Alright, welcome to Starix. This is my world building project. This has got a lot of art, and I've been working on it for about 5 years. There's a lot of lore behind it. There's a whole crafting system, and there's a lot of enemies and locations, things like that. So getting right into it, you can see right here there's something called stonium. Right here, stonium chunk. Stonium chunk is your basic element. It's the lowest tier of all elements, and it's the most basic. So I create these pictures on MS Paint, and they're all pixel art. And it's been quite the project getting all of these done, but little by little, I've come up with a lot of different designs that I think are pretty cool. And this whole file got corrupted one time. I lost it on my old computer, and I only had one picture which was compressed, and I had to kind of go through and almost recreate everything by looking at the compressed picture, and that took forever. So my pixel art has evolved a little bit over the years. I don't really there's a lot of things that I'm looking at that I wouldn't have done, that I would have done differently, but I think I've gotten better over the years, but I take a lot less risks. So the thing about getting better at art is I think you just take a lot less risks and you develop more of a style. But I kind of like some of the weird things that I did, and some of the weird design choices I made early on. But this is stonium, and you have the stonium blade. This is all crafted from the stonium chunk. And then with all four parts of this set, which is the head, body, legs, and the weapon, you can combine those and create something called an effigy, and the effigy will give you abilities. And each effigy has 3 different abilities. And then when you get the chisel, you can take that stonium armor and turn it into superior armor, which will kind of like do a little bit more defense and damage. And then you get this Bladica, and superior engraved Bladica is more powerful, so you can see you've leveled it up after that. So what is this all about? What is the lore behind it? There's a lot of lore behind it. So basically, just to start off, I guess I could explain who you are in the game, because it's not a game as much as it is just a world building project, but the main character is you, whoever would be reading it or whatever. You put yourself in the shoes of the Arcanist, and the Arcanist is a character who was found half dead on the fields of battle near the temple. And the Arcanist is somehow holding something called the Ijar knife, which is passed down through generations in the bloodline. And the Ijar knife, which I'll put up on screen right now, along with the bloody stonium visor, were the 2 significant items you were found with. And I'll also put Vorquil on screen now, because he's the most important character early on. And I kind of want Vorquil to be this mysterious character, but he's also friendly because he saves your life. And he's got this really cool armor, but if you ask him anything about the armor, he's going to kind of shrug it off, and he's not really going to tell you how he got the armor or where he created it. But that'll come into play later on. He's not going to explain what element his armor is, because each set is a specific kind of element. So this is Vorquil. He's the master of the temple, and the temple is the place where the Arcanists used to exist as kind of like a guild or a faction, and they work alongside something called the Bloodline. So after After Vorquil saves your life, he explains to you that you need to rebuild some of the broken plinths in the temple, create effigies, and also, if you're up for it, find the ancient texts and books that were stolen from the library of the temple, which is kind of in a basement area. And the temple consists of a bowl where you could put elements in, and then these giant lenses focus the light of stars into it and melt down and reforge the elements or combine them. And then there's a giant pit in the center where they throw all the excess materials. It would be like any of the dregs that were attached to the elements. It's the bad part that they need to throw out. And that ends up in the pit inside the middle of the temple. And there's always this black smoke rising from it, so there's no roof to the top of the temple. It's just open. And I kind of made like a little visualization of what I think the temple would look like. It's just your basic Roman style or Greek style temple. And I'll just grab it here real quick so that you can see what I mean. I've got the whole like user interface right here. This is the temple, and you can see your little Arcanist character there. He's meditating and just chilling out, getting ready to go out and collect more elements and fight more bosses and stuff. Right here, there's 3 slots where you can put remnants, and those will boost you a little bit. And then over here would be where like the enemy goes and their health bar. And you can equip your weapon, your armor, and you can hold your effigy in your other hand. And then your 3 abilities are like down here. So that's everything that's attached to your character. So, moving on. I'm going to add one more little part to this, which is just going to complete this. The Gilded set. And this is the completed set. The Gilded set is a superior set, but you've added Brimstone. You have the Gilded Visor, Gilded Coats, Gilded Guard, and the Gilded Wrought Bladica. And then you have your secondary element here. So now the Gilded set is actually a compound set. It's a combination of Brimstone and Stonium. So you'll gild it with this Brimstone, or melted sulfur is what it actually is, but it becomes Brimstone when you melt down the sulfur. And it kind of like changes its state. And then there's a new kind of effigy, which is the Ornate Effigy. The Superior set doesn't have its own effigy because it's actually just an upgraded version of Stonium. So it doesn't really have its own effigy there. And so where do you get these elements? Where do they come from? That's going to be where the enemies come in. So, first enemy. Actually, I'll add all of them here because these kind of all go together. And then also, these are all kind of the beginner area things. So, I'll add them in here. We have the Shade. And the Shade is the lamest enemy in the game. Easy to defeat. No problem. And so, right here it says I've got my little lore thing here I'm looking at. The Shades are often seen wandering through old battlefields and ruins. So they could kind of be anywhere. They're not really area specific. Nobody really knows where the shades came from. They're just there. They just exist. Some people say maybe they were fallen warriors. No one really knows. Then you have these. These are primals. And you can see they have brimstone eyes, 3 eyes. The 3 dots in a triangle, that's an important symbol in this world. And it symbolizes the 3 arch stars. But we'll get into that later on. Right now, we're just going to look at some of the basic creatures. So, primals, what are they? Primals drop stonium chunks and brimstone when you kill them. And they were once builders of the world. They laid the foundations of the mountains and seeded the forests. They became resentful to humanity after they saw the great destruction the Dark Battles caused. The Dark Battles was a period of war, which recently ended at the beginning of this stage in the story. And then there's a lot of different kinds of primals. This is just the basic primal, and you'll see later on there's other ones made out of different elements, but this one's made out of 2 elements, so it kind of represents the base of all. And then there's these gargoyles, which I recently added, and gargoyles are just stonium, but they also drop the chisel. And the chisel is this tool here that allows you to turn regular stonium into superior. And then the little lore about these is gargoyles were chiseled from blocks of stonium in the Age of the Bloodline to guard the land of Starix, but during the Dark Battles they lost their purpose and now have no masters. There's also status effects attached to each enemy. The Shade has Fatigue, the Primal has Pyro, and the Gargoyle has Stun. And I'll explain the status effects later on, but for now, I think this is a good place to stop. We've gone over pretty much everything. I need to make this longer. You can see something called the Unpowered Key here, which is something Vorquil gives you. It's a mysterious object. You don't know what to do with it yet, but it'll come into play later on. And yeah, so I'll just zoom out here so you can get a view. And I'm going to have to make this document longer so I can add more things, because there's going to be the whole page filled up. And yeah, that's the end of part 1.